Tasmania is blessed with some of the best cruising waters in the world, with crystal clear waters and countless sheltered anchorages all along our coasts. Exploring and cruising is a way of life for many, but all boaties have a responsibility to be sensible when it comes to waste.
People need to be aware that when they're out cruising, obviously the cruising boats have waste, black water waste, grey water waste, and we need to be conscious that when we're in those sheltered bays and anchorages that we're not wrecking that experience for other people. It's any boat, runabouts, larger cruising boats, passenger boats, all that sort of thing. People need to be conscious of where their waste's going and how they're treating that waste before it does go over the side.
Boats create a lot of waste, particularly when cruising and staying out for extended periods of time, and there are in fact laws in place when it comes to dealing with this waste.
Most areas are 1 nautical mile minimum from shore for macerated black water or sewage to be able to be discharged over the side. It does vary in certain areas, so looking on the EPA website for those directives specific to where your area of cruising might be would be a good idea. Anything that goes over the side can't create a plume in the water, so a plume that hangs around the vessel. This is particularly bad in shallow water areas, so you must ensure there's not a plume visible over the side of the boat. The depth must be a minimum of 5 metres deep to be able to discharge, so regardless of if you are a nautical mile from land, you still need that 5 metres of depth under the vessel. Grey water waste is another big one within sheltered bays and estuaries as well. So if you're imagining you're washing off a fatty oily pan down the sink and that's going straight out into the water, that's going to create some pollution for people that are on the beach. Vegetable peelings, stuff that you're throwing straight over the side, that's going to wash ashore onto the beach. So just being really conscious of the areas where you are and what you can and can't do. There is no restrictions on discharging your grey water, but just be mindful. Do it in a sensible way. Try and clean things off into bins on your boat before you then rinse things down the sink, because ultimately they end up in the environment.
The EPA recommends the best thing boaters can do is bring their waste off the water with them and discard it on land, and that's something many boats actually have the capacity to do.
Vessels are all set up differently. Boats have come a long way over recent years, particularly with new vessel builds and things. Toilets and holding tanks are being installed in vessels. Holding tank is essentially a tank where all the waste goes into, which can then be disposed of back on land at a pump out facility. Many vessels still have the macerating toilet systems where the waste goes directly over the side. And I guess that's where this directive is really important for those boats that don't have those systems in place on board, to make sure they're mindful of where they're discharging that waste. Other people are enjoying that area as well as you. Kids and families might be swimming as well. So that's why the rules are there. The directives are there for those reasons. So just keep that in mind when you are cruising into those areas.
For a list of rules, recommendations and maps of where you can and can't discharge waste when cruising, visit the EPA website.
The EPA has a sewage management directive, which is available on the EPA website. We really recommend people that are cruising on any vessel in Tasmania, regardless of size, just to go and have a look at those guidelines and make themselves aware on what they can and can't do with their waste, because it does vary from bay to bay. There are list map layers or layers you can turn on a chart to see those lines, to see where you can and cannot discharge. So it's really easy. Jump onto the EPA website and go to sewage management directives and you can find all that information available.